Welcome back, bow hunters. This is Ron with Stay Sharp Guides. In this sharpening video, we're looking at the G5 Deadmeat and Megameat. They're essentially the same except for blade size and length. Now, this head was sent to me in a box with a bunch of other heads to come up with a sharpening solution for. So this head, while it is new, it was kind of under a strain in a box with other heads, so the blades do have some nicks on them that are visible. But I did test some of the areas of the blade and I got a score of 175. And based on the appearance that I'm seeing on these blades, it's clear they care about their edges. Although it's unique that each blade has this area right here that is dipped down compared to the rest of the blades. So that must be part of their sharpening process. Each one has this dip right here that's highlighted. But these heads came very sharp in the portions that weren't damaged from banging around with other broadheads. The challenge with this head is going to be how to keep these blades open during the sharpening process. And I gotta take the collar off. In order to even remove these blades, you need two tools, a broadhead wrench, and then they've got another tool that allows you to grip this back here, and you can break this connection between this piece and this aluminum piece, take this out, and then you can remove these blades. The reason these blades can't be sharpened in any of our guides or any other manufacturer's guides is the blades have a pin on both sides that keep them from falling out. That pin is the cause for having to sharpen this in the answer guide. One, you won't have to take this broadhead apart, which is a pain. A lot of people don't like taking broadheads apart and putting them back together. And two, it can't be sharpened in any other guide, so it allows you to sharpen it on the arrow that we supply with the answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with a solution to keep these floppy blades from flailing around and in being in different positions while I'm sharpening. Because without that collar and without any restraint, these blades are going to move, which is going to thwart the sharpening process. So I'm going to put together what works best and then I will come right back. Here's what I came up with as a way to hold these blades in the full open position. Just simple tape. I'm using freezer tape with blue painter's tape. Could work. I'm taping the blades to themselves, to the ferrule, all the way around, and then if I just peel away, I cut it with a razor knife behind the bevel because I don't want that bevel portion being obscured while I'm trying to sharpen. So the blades will be held open, but the bevel portion is not going to be covered, and we could probably grind through the tape, but I don't want to gum up the plates, the diamond plates in the process. So just remove the tape that you have on there. And that would expose the blades. Now in one section I am removing the tape so that we can get a dimension to the ferrule. That would be the dimension we care about as it relates to how deep into the guide we're going to be setting this for these blades. So now I've got the blades, except for one piece here. There we go. The cutting edges are now all exposed for sharpening. If you wish to trim the excess, you certainly can do that. But now these blades will be held well enough for what we're going to be doing. Now, as I said, these blades came sharp, but these seem to be pretty stout blades that could probably withstand repeated use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dull a blade that we're going to sharpen. And like I said, they all feel relatively sharp despite the nicks that are in them. But I'm going to take some 2000 grit sandpaper and I'm going to go over this blade and I'm really going to blunt it. I'm going to take the very cutting edge and I'm going to sand it flat. So that should have gotten it fairly dull. And I'm going to put a little mark on that blade so I remember which one it was. It's this blade right here that I'll be testing and sharpening. Now this head doesn't lend itself real well to getting into the edge on up meter, but we'll do our best. So this represents a head that you've sent through an animal now. It's dulled. And that's certainly dulled. So that's going to be our starting point. And that's the blade we're going to be sharpening, this one here that I've dulled. So let me get everything set up in regards to insertion depth. I'll play around with that and come up with the best insertion depth for it. And then we'll come back and talk about sharpening. After playing around with this blade, I find that having an insertion depth of 1 3/4 inch to the insert seems to be just fine. So when you get the answer, you'll see these silver lines on here. These are set up for 4 blades, but this also works for 3 blades. So this line aligns with the key at the top. So the blade that we're going to sharpen, we're going to align that with the key. And now you know the insertion depth of 1 3/4, so I tighten down the screw. And in this case, I'm going to use the furthest out hole to sharpen these blades. Now this is going to be slightly steeper than factory, but I see that these blades have almost a fillet knife type low edge. I mean, it is a very low edge, and I'm not a fan of that. Those edges are not that survivable. When they meet bone, they roll over and curl, and then they quit cutting. And I could see that based on the damage that these heads undertook just in the box getting here. That super thin edge is very sharp, but imagine a razor blade, right? If I tap it with something, I'm going to put a divot or a dent in that blade, and that's not very survivable. Now, I'm going to be a little bit steeper, but steep can be sharp, and we're going to show that. So I've colored the blade up with Sharpie on both sides, and to test my insertion depth and alignment with the key, I'm going to take 1200 grit and I'm just going to check for marker wear. So in this case, I can go back and forth now that I've taped the blades. If I didn't tape the blades, I would have to go forward each time. If I went backward, the blades would close or swing with the diamonds as I went backward. So the tape is going to help me in that regard. Keeps the blades in the same position every time. So I do a few strokes at 1200 and I can see that white line where I've removed the marker. Again, it's going to be a little bit steeper than factory, but again, that is a stronger edge that can still be made very sharp. I'm going to take out the 1200 grit plate, and when removing or inserting plates, look for the 3 dots on the holder. Slide the diamonds out. We're going to start on this one with 800 grit. The diamonds can be put in this way or this way, but just insert them with the 3 dots up. All right, I'm going to go back into that lowest hole, and you have the option of bringing the broadhead against the diamond or moving the diamond over the blade. It's entirely up to you. My preference varies, but in this case I'm going to go over the stone with the blade. The process is simple. You sharpen one side until you've achieved a burr. The burr always shows up on the side opposite of what you're sharpening. So we're sharpening the downside on the stone. That burr is going to be aiming straight up toward the sky on this side of the blade once we have achieved it. So again, let's look at our wear. You can see I'm attacking just that cutting edge. I'll be steeper, stronger. If you want to go down to their low razor blade sort of factory edge, you can bring this insertion out. Right? So if I were to leave it in this hole and tuck it in deeper, you can see my blade angle. As I go out and out and out and out, by pulling the arrow out, I can go to a more gradual angle. I also have the ability to leave it in this insertion position and go to a lower hole, or go to another lower hole, and that will give me a lower angle. So there's a lot of positions here and a lot of insertion depth here that you can play with. I'm going to go with a little bit steeper angle because I like a stronger edge, and I'll show you when we're done how sharp a steeper edge can be made. So now we dulled this with a little bit of silicone carbide paper and sanded that blade flat. Plus there were some noticeable dings in the blade that I have to get beyond. But I don't think it'll take too long to get to a burr. Don't push down hard. Once you lay the blade flat and trap it, you're just going backward over the stone. If you start pushing down hard, these blades are fairly thin. They're going to flex and bend, and you'll get a curl shape to them, and you'll get uneven wear. So use light pressure when you're sharpening. Again, we'll look at our wear here. That's what our wear looks like. Let's check to see if we have achieved a burr. I'll take a narrow piece of paper, notebook paper, post-it note, whatever, and cut it so it's not more than 1/4 of an inch wide. Then I slide it along the blade so you can see it flexing and popping. Let me try to get a better view here. So I clearly have a burr as I push this paper. It stops because it hits that burr, it bends, and then eventually pops off. So that is a burr that I can feel in my fingerprint. I don't know if you can see it, but that burr is folded up this way. Now that I've achieved a burr on this side, I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to use the corresponding furthest hole out on this side. I'll switch hands. And here again, the first sound you hear is that crunchy sound of breaking that burr off. And now I'll sharpen this side of the blade until I get a second burr. So it's a burr on one side with that grit, whichever grit you're using. Flip it over, a burr on the other side. Once you get 2 burrs, that is your signal. You can stop using that grit. You've done all you're going to be able to do. You've reached the apex on both sides of the blade with that grit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a second burr at 800, then I'm going to get a burr at 1200 on both sides, a burr at 2000 on both sides, and then we will come back and talk about final burr breaking and buffing or stropping next, so stay tuned. Here I am at 2000 grit, got a burr on both sides, so now I'm doing alternate burr breaking strokes to make sure that before I go on to buffing, I don't have any of this 2000 grit burr left behind. So after I've done a bunch of strokes on each side, you got 2 burrs, I'm just doing limited number of strokes. And these are burr breaking strokes. And if you've watched my videos, you understand what I'm talking about in terms of getting rid of the burr. You want no burr left behind. Now our next step is going to be buffing this blade, but I can tell you right now, this is a very sharp blade. We've gone 8, 12, 2000, and the next step is buffing. So on our 2000 grit plate, we will use tape. You will not apply buffing compound to the plate itself. As you push down and push the adhesive into the diamonds, and I use a stick, you can see how much darker it's getting. We're making good contact. Here's the handle of a screwdriver. Here's my thumbnail. Whatever you want to use to really push that tape into the diamond plate. It removes any bubbles, wrinkles that would impede the buffing process, with the added benefit of cleaning the plate. So let's look at, here's an 800. That's pretty dirty. Let's lay some tape on the 800. So all grits, 400, 800, 1200, 2000, will need cleaning over time. And the best way to clean them is with tape. Blue painter's tape, this white freezer tape, it won't matter. Push that tape in there nice and deeply, then peel the tape right back on top of itself. And look what we're getting. The plate is cleaning. Here's the side of the diamond plate that I was sharpening with. This side was less used. But now you can see how the plate is getting cleaner and all that debris is showing up on the tape. Do that with all of your plates for cleaning. So now we're going to apply buffing compound to the tape. Do not apply buffing compound to the diamond. You'll wreck your diamonds. There's no way to get it out. Only apply buffing compound to the tape itself. Alright, so the blade that we've been working on is the one with the 2 black dots. Buffing is a pull-only motion, so we're only going to go backwards. We don't want to scrape that buffing compound off of the tape. We don't want to cut the tape. Buffing compound is a wax with a real fine abrasive suspended in it. The tape is just the carrier, so you can call this a leather strop if you want to, but it's a tape strop. And we're going to flip over to the other side. Do the same thing. Pull only stroke. And this is going to really smooth out those last scratches that 2000 grit put into that cutting edge. Now while I was sharpening, the holes that I chose to use for this particular blade were my choice. As I said, you can choose different holes, different arrow insertion depth, but let's say you would really like a hole here for the head you're sharpening, or here, or here, or here, or here. Take a drill bit, drop it in one of the holes so you get the right size, and if you are determined that you need a hole there, drill a hole there, or there, or there. The guide is made out of a thermoplastic. You won't hurt a thing by adding a hole, so you can customize this guide to be exactly what you want. Now buffing, like I said, cannot be overdone. You can buff and buff and buff and buff all you want. All you're doing is creating a more mirrored edge. And we have not buffed very long. I'll do one more alternate stroke here just to make sure we've got rid of all burr. One stroke on each side in the end. and I have not buffed very long. But let's get a feel for where we are in regards to sharpness with just a limited amount of buffing. So that's the edge that we got. But let's check it out just to see what we're gonna get so far. Get my hand out of the way here. 124. So that's a pretty good score already, but let me buff some more. I'll come back and we'll see if we can even improve that. I've spent a little bit more time buffing. Now I'm down to those final insurance strokes, I call them, to ensure that there is no buffing burr left behind. There will be a burr in buffing, but it's super tiny. And like I said, you can't overdo buffing. That feels pretty good. There are those who do not like a buffed edge. They want to run their thumb across there and not feel a mirror finish. They want to feel a little toothy grab. That's fine, that's up to you. 72. I have gotten better through a little bit additional buffing. Let me set this up again. And while we have buffed to a 72 score, let's peel this tape off. We'll show you the cleaning that we got on the 2000 plate. So we're making that clean. But let's say you don't like buffing. Not everybody does. Let's take that same blade and undo some of that buffing, and let's go back to 2000 grit. So we're not going to have a buffed edge. And you don't have to. If you want to have a toothier feel so that when you run your thumb across there, you feel it catch on your fingerprint, because that's what you like, fine, do that. You own the edges that you're going to hunt with. If you want to stop at 800, that's fine. A bow hunter owns his own edges. So hunt with the edges that you will tolerate, or the edges that you like the feel of. Alright, we'll do one more stroke, so we will have gotten rid of that buffed edge, and now we'll have a little toothier feel, right? So a lot of people say, man, that feels really sharp, because it's catching on their thumbprint, and to them that's sharp. Get rid of that glare, there we go. Alright, so again, we're on the blade with the mark on it. Let's see what we get. 249. That is still a very lethal edge, right? 249 is still a good edge. But everybody has a different feel for what they want for sharpness. Entirely up to you. Now that we have this blade done, set with the key, and we have this insertion depth, I won't sharpen the other two blades, but I'll show you the process. Either use a colored like a gold or silver Sharpie marker, or put some tape right on the shaft because you care about this insertion depth. Fold it over a little bit so it's easier to peel off later on. You care about that insertion depth. Next, loosen the screw. We're going to go to the next blade. There's the key. We would simply align the next blade with the key, match that insertion depth, tighten it down, and now we can proceed to sharpen blade number 2. When blade 2 is sharpened, we will loosen our screw. There's the key. We will rotate that blade. Give it a little tighten here to make sure we can get that depth right. There's our depth right there. There is our alignment with the key. Tighten it down, and now you're on to sharpening the final blade. When you've got your final blade sharpened, take your head off out of the guide and simply peel off each piece of tape. You can then unscrew it, put your collar back on, lock it in place, and you're good to go. If this is the only head you sharpen, tape is a fine choice. If you sharpen a lot of different heads, a line on here with a colored Sharpie and just put, G5 next to it, so that's for this head. Maybe you shoot slick tricks and that may be here. Maybe you shoot iron wills and that would be here. If you're like some guys who shoot, they've got 6 spots in their quiver and they got 6 different broadheads, just put marks on the shaft. Once you've got all the blades sharpened, peel your tape off. Take the broadhead off of the supplied arrow shaft, put your collar back on, lock the blades in place, and you're good to go. That is sharpening the G5 Deadmeat or Megameat using the answer guide from Stay Sharp. Again, you'll get the base, the arrow with an insert in it. You'll get 4 grits of diamond, the diamond holder with the slide rod. You'll get buffing compound. All you'll need to supply is some tape, or this white tape or blue painter's tape. That is how you sharpen the the G5 Megameat or Deadmeat. So let's do a giveaway now. We've been doing more giveaways. Unfortunately, I don't have a 3-pack of these to give away since I was sent just one. So let's give away something fairly similar. This is a Schwacker. Which one is it? The 241 Schwacker. If you would like this pack, this 3-pack of Schwackers, all you need to do is comment in this video. We'd love it if you liked and subscribed to our channel, because we do more of these giveaways. And we're always coming up with broadhead sharpening solutions. We've got a lot of videos in the queue to deliver. But simply commenting will put your name in the hat for this 3-pack, and we'll pick one lucky commenter in this video. Thanks for watching.